Hi there, I'm Professor Blackmore, and I want to welcome you back to my channel and to my series entitled The Diddy Files Bad Boy for Life versus the Entire World. And I'm coming back to you today to summarize developments in Brother Little Rod's case against Brother Diddy. In addition, I will also endeavor to analyze all that has transpired in the aftermath of the simultaneous search warrant operations conducted by federal agents on homes owned by Sean Diddy Combs, located in Los Angeles and Miami, so that we can see if we can ascertain what, if anything, the feds found in those homes.
It's my understanding that when the raid went down in Miami, were you on Star Island or were you actually at Diddy's house? I know you were in Miami.
I was at his crib working in the studio. I was sitting outside the studio door, and I heard a big boom. Now, mind you, before we get into this, I'm not a spring chicken, even though I look fly and stuff. But I've witnessed some historical events of excessive force, but none like this since Saddam Hussein or El Chapo or Pablo Escobar, even Osama bin Laden. I heard a big boom. So I'm thinking like, a lot of people do work on the island all day long. So I'm figuring someone dropped some materials. Heard it again. Turn my head, I'm hearing do, 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 do. Armored vehicles, 3 big armored vehicles come. Dudes jump out, I got 50 dots on my shirt. Screaming, yo, get on the ground. I'm like, yo, really? I'm the only one here.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that mostly every document Brother Little Rod's attorney, Brother Tyrone Blackburn, files in the court in his case has filing error deficiencies. And so all of these blue notes that you see here are filing deficiency notices to Brother Blackburn from the court clerk, notifying him why his filings are deficient and can't be filed by the clerk of the court, and or how the filing had to be corrected so the clerk could file the document. And after he attempts to file the complaint the first time on February the 27th, 2024, it is rejected by the clerk due to filing errors. So he attempts to refile it a second time on March the 4th, 2024, but it again has errors in it. And so, nevertheless, the clerk eventually corrected the errors on his behalf that were present in his filing selections for the first amended complaint, and the clerk went ahead and electronically filed the document within the court's docket for the case. And for whatever reason, the parties are referring to Brother Little Rod's first amended complaint when it's really not a first amended complaint. It's just merely a replacement of the complaint he originally filed February the 27th. And so, Brother Little Rod's first amended complaint was the last live pleading on file at the time in this federal court in the Southern District of New York. Now, you may be aware that a lawsuit was recently filed in the Los Angeles County Superior Court, which is a state court in California, against Brother Diddy's son, Christian Combs, primarily. And Brother Diddy, in addition, just for purposes of liability.
New legal trouble for music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. It has to do with a lawsuit filed against his son. Jeff Paul is live with us here in Los Angeles with more on this. Jeff.
Yeah, Trace, we just got our hands on this 31-page lawsuit, and it's just the latest chapter in a series of lawsuits that have been filed against both Sean Diddy Combs and now one that involves his son, Christian Combs. Now, attorneys filed this suit on behalf of a woman named Grace O'Markey. She worked as a crew member on board a yacht that was leased by Sean Combs and his family back in December of 2022. She was 25 at the time. Now, the lawsuit claims in the early morning hours of December 28th, Christian Combs started pressuring O'Markey to take shots of tequila. Soon after, she says she felt scared and believed the alcohol was spiked. The lawsuit asserts Christian Combs then sexually assaulted O'Markey, grabbing parts of her body, trying to kiss her, and force her to perform oral sex. O'Markey's lawyers claim to have audio recordings of some of these interactions. We should point out Sean Combs, who is seen in some of these photos on board that very yacht right around the same time period you see here, isn't accused of any sexual assault in this suit, but was included for liability. Sean and Christian's lawyer, Aaron Dyer, released a statement saying in part, "We have not seen this woman's claim, but I'm sure we can expect the same kind of manufactured lies." Now, it was just last week when police and federal agents raided 2 properties owned by Diddy, one in California, the other in Florida. His son Christian was present during the Los Angeles raid. Diddy, who has been accused of sexual assault in other lawsuits, has not been charged with a crime and has denied all accusations of any wrongdoing. Trace?
Jeff, thank you.
And so, Brother Blackburn associated with a Los Angeles attorney, Brother Rodney Diggs, to file this particular lawsuit against Brother Diddy and his son. But that's not the first time that we have seen this individual in this case. Now, we originally saw him back when Brother Little Rod's attorney first tried to file this case in the federal court, and when he tried to pro hac vici this particular attorney into the case. And so, as you can see here, he tried to file a motion pro hac vici to bring in this Brother Rodney Diggs into the case, but the clerk again rejected the motion because Brother Blackburn incorrectly filed it in the clerk's records. And so at that particular point, for whatever reason, the filing first really, had not been amended. And so let me see if I can just get back to my place. Now, and so after he attempted to file the document in the court, the filing was never correctly docketed because he was not able to correctly file it with court. And so that is why you don't see this particular attorney's name on the docket sheet here associated with this case. And you don't see this Los Angeles attorney here appearing on this case in this New York federal docket sheet as an additional attorney for Brother Little Rod in this particular case. And you actually could have knocked me over with a feather, because I learned, and it was quite surprising to learn, that Brother Blackburn was trying to pro hac vici this attorney in from Los Angeles into the bar of this court, because we also recently learned that another judge in this same courthouse stated, quote, "The clerk of the court does not have a record that Tyrone A. Blackburn is a member of the bar of this court," end quote. And so this judge also states that who is a judge in this same courthouse where the Brother Little Rod case is pending, ultimately referred Brother Blackburn, quote, "to the grievance committee of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York for such action as it deems appropriate," end quote. For, among other things, quote, "falsely representing his admission to practice in the court," end quote, and for, quote, "failure to move or file a motion for admission pro hac vici or to associate with counsel admitted to practice in this court," end quote. And when you see somebody pro hac vici or trying to file a motion pro hac vici, they're not licensed in that particular jurisdiction. So they are requesting what they call a permission from the judge. It's called pro hac vici, permission from the judge to allow that out-of-state person or that person who could be an attorney in that particular state, as it is for Brother Blackburn. He is an attorney in New York, but he's not a member of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. He's not a member of the bar of that court. So if he wants to practice in that court, he either has to file a motion pro hac vici, or he has to associate with an attorney who is already a member of the bar of that particular court. And so I think it's laughable that Brother Blackburn would be even trying to file a motion for another attorney to practice pro hac vici in this court when he needed to file one for himself. But I guess that could be a good reason why he quit trying. But I guess that ain't none of my business. Now, on March the 25th, 2024, Brother Blackburn attempts to file a second amended complaint, I guess to pull back on some of the lies, allegedly, contained in his first amended complaint. And while Brother Diddy's attorneys have been very quiet in this case, the attorney representing the Universal Music Group defendants have been all over Brother Little Rod and his attorney, Brother Blackburn, like stank on shit, as evidenced by the filing of their motion to dismiss Brother Little Rod's first amended complaint, which motion to dismiss was filed on March the 27th, 2024. Now, before going into the UMG defendant's motion to dismiss, I want to preview a letter written by their attorney that I will preview in full a little bit later on, but I want to pull out a paragraph from it now, which explains why we have not heard from Brother Diddy's attorneys in this case as of yet, in which the attorney states, quote, "In an effort to mitigate the reputational harm from this lawsuit, the UMG defendants voluntarily waived service of process so they could file a motion to dismiss as soon as possible. Now, Brother Little Rod and Brother Blackburn want to further delay dismissal of claims by seeking this court's permission to amend the first amended complaint." End quote. So that is the reason that you don't see that Brother Diddy's attorneys have yet entered an appearance in this case, and that is because either that they haven't been served yet, or if they have been served, the deadline has not expired and has not expired for them to file an answer, and continuing to amend the complaint as Brother Little Rod's attorney is doing adds complexity to this entire process. Now, regarding the UMG defendant's motion to dismiss, well, their attorney schooled Brother Blackburn on the proper procedure for filing an amended complaint by notifying him that you can't just file an amended complaint without first obtaining leave of court to do so. In other words, you have to obtain permission from the judge before you can file an amended complaint. Now, knowing that Brother Blackburn was trying to file a second amended complaint, I personally would have just waited for him to get the thing filed, and I would have just filed my motion to dismiss his second amended complaint, because that would have been the last live pleading on file, superseding the first amended complaint. And so, even though counsel for the UMG defendants notified Brother Blackburn that he did not have proper leave of court from the judge to file the second amended complaint, Brother Blackburn went ahead and tried to file it again on March the 27th, 2024, at which time the clerk notifies him that, quote, The filing is deficient for the following reasons. Court's leave has not been granted. The order granting permission to file the pleading was not attached, etc., so forth, and so on. End quote. And so what she's saying is that once the judge gives you permission and signs the order granting you leave or permission to file your amended complaint, when you file it, you then have to attach a copy of the order to your filing so that the clerk will know that they're properly filing that particular motion. And that's when all of the letters started flying back and forth from the attorneys to the judge's chambers, starting with Brother Blackburn's letter to the judge requesting leave of court to file his second amended complaint on behalf of Brother Little Rod, since it was clear that at this point, none of the other defendants would consent to this fiasco, and certainly the UMG defendants were not going to consent. And as I have, already explained to you, the other defendants have not yet entered an appearance in the case. And if I were Brother Blackburn, I think I just would have left it at that. But I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to learn that he did not hesitate to feel the need to throw a rock in the forest by taking the time to note that, quote, claims raised by Brother Little Rod in his second amended complaint or his second amended pleading are accurate, as the events of March the 25th, 2024, which we all saw on the news, have revealed. Number one, Brother Diddy's drug mule, Brandon Paul, was arrested in Miami, Florida for cocaine possession, and the cocaine was in his carry-on luggage, as Brother Little Rod stated in his amended pleading. And number two, Brother Combs is being investigated for possible sex trafficking, etc. End quote. Now, I think we can all agree that nothing that happened on March the 25th, 2024 has anything to do with this lawsuit. That Brandon Paul was not arrested for anything having anything to do with Brother Diddy, who was also not arrested. And none of this has anything, honestly, to do with the UMG defendants at all. But I guess that ain't none of my business either. And so, after Brother Blackburn throws his unnecessary rock in the forest, Brother Attorney for the UMG defendant said, well, Brother Blackburn, don't start none, won't be none. And he files a 5-page response letter to the judge in which he states, quote, as Brother Little Rod and Brother Blackburn no doubt intended, the baseless claims made against the UMG defendants in the first amended complaint have attracted press attention, causing immediate reputational harm. End quote. In other words, when all of this mess is over and this fiasco is dismissed, allegedly, the UMG defendants are going to sue your ass, Brother Blackburn. Oh, but let me stay focused, y'all, because Brother Blackburn, or Brother Attorney for the UMG defendants, ends his 5-page soliloquy by stating, quote, leave to amend a second time should be denied, and the UMG defendants' motion to dismiss should be granted, end quote. Well, if you ask me, if the truth would be told, leave to amend the first time was never granted, Brother Blackburn, but I guess that ain't none of my business either. Now, any attorney, and I will just tell you in my long practice of law, but any attorney who has practiced long enough knows at this point that the judge is going to grant Brother Little Rod's request made by and through his attorney, Brother Blackburn, for leave to amend that complaint. And that is why I would have just, I would not have filed my motion to dismiss until the second amended complaint was fully docketed, knowing that Brother Blackburn was trying to file a second amended complaint. Nevertheless, the judge then on April the 2nd, 2024, set a telephonic conference hearing set to take place on April the 9th, 2024. But this did not stop all of the letters from flying back and forth to and from the judge's chambers, because on April the 4th, 2024, brother attorney for the UMG defendants files a letter to the judge in which he states, quote, "We write to bring your honor's attention to an opinion and order issued by Judge Coate yesterday, April the 3rd, 2024, a copy of which is attached hereto. And in that order, Judge Coate referred Brother Blackburn to the Grievance Committee of the Southern District of New York to address what she found to be a pattern of failing to comply with his Rule 11 obligations," end quote. And Brother Blackburn and brother attorney for the UMG defendants, mind you, states that he attaches a copy of the judge's order, which is the same opinion and order that I referenced earlier in this podcast episode series, of which I fully covered in part 1 of this podcast episode series, in which that judge, Judge Coate, who is a judge in an unrelated case in the same courthouse, admonished Brother Blackburn, wherein she states, quote, "There is a basis to believe that Brother Blackburn is filing cases in this district without diligently investigating the existence of either jurisdiction or venue as required by Rule 11. She goes on to state that he improperly files cases in federal court to garner media attention, embarrass defendants with salacious and embarrassing details, and pressures defendants to settle quickly. Indeed, his submissions to this court have been rife with disturbing allegations against the defendant and defense counsel," end quote. And so at this point, I'm sure you're not surprised to learn that Brother Blackburn did not let this go unanswered, because he first files a reply letter to the UMG defendant's response, wherein they request the court not grant Brother Little Rod's request for leave to file his second amended complaint. And in his reply, Brother Blackburn refers to the letter filed by brother attorney for the UMG defendants as an angry letter. And Brother Blackburn attaches to his letter, he attaches a declaration to his reply. He attaches a declaration sworn to by his client, Brother Little Rod. And I guess he attaches this Brother Little Rod declaration to establish that the allegations contained in his pleadings are not untrue. But the matters set forth in the declaration have nothing to do with the reason that Judge Coate admonished him in the other unrelated case, which was for asserting diversity jurisdiction in a case where Brother Blackburn knew complete diversity of citizenship did not exist. And the matters stated in Brother Little Rod's declaration, really, in my opinion, have nothing whatsoever to do with the UMG defendants. Notwithstanding, in Brother Little Rod's declaration, he states, quote, "In a recording that I can provide to the court, on multiple occasions, Brother Diddy shared wild stories of his 30 plus years in the music industry. He shared how he would get things by force. This included record deals, signatures on contracts, sex acts for women and men, as well as the women of his enemies. For example, Brother Diddy bragged about having Daphne Joy, the child mother of a competing rapper, on his payroll as one of his sex workers. I have a video of Brother Diddy on a massage table receiving a massage from a professional masseuse while Daphne Joy is giving him a foot massage. And in my opinion, if that is all that's on the video. None of that is illegal if the person is just massaging his back and feet. But I guess that ain't none of my business either. Brother Diddy bragged about shooting a woman in the face in 1999 in New York City and getting away with it. He bragged about departed attorney Johnny Cochran's savvy legal skills and ability to pay off the witnesses through private investigators and other third parties. He bragged about having Jennifer Lopez carrying his gun into the club the night of the shooting and the fact that he has so much power and influence over her at the time. He bragged about getting Shine to take the heat for the shooting and the fact that he paid Shine through a record deal with his good friend L.A. Reid. Brother Diddy bragged about the power he has and the fact that he beat record executive Steve Stout's ass. He laughed uncontrollably as he talked about busting him in the head with a bottle of champagne and a chair. Brother Diddy also informed me that only poor people pay taxes. He shared that it is a common practice in the music industry to wire money from anonymous accounts overseas. This way, if there is ever a need to take care of a problem, it would never be tracked back to him. These accounts were in Germany. Brother Diddy also shared that he invests in many shell companies and provides funding for businesses like Wingstop. I could share other things, but I don't feel comfortable putting them in this docket. I will be willing to discuss them with the court under seal to preserve my Fifth Amendment rights. End quote. Now, Lordy have mercy in the blessed name of Jesus. First of all, none of this has anything to do with the UMG defendants in this case at all. Universal Music Group is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion that I can see connected to entities owned by Brother Diddy. Once UMG pays Brother Diddy through any licensing deals they have for any music he produces, that is it for them. In other words, they would not be held responsible for any liability that results from how Brother Diddy decides to spend his own money once he earns it. And if you can't tell at this point, this case, in my opinion, is nothing more than a contract dispute. And this judge will not be interested in discussing anything with Brother Little Rod under seal. And if this case makes it that far, the only discussing Brother Little Rod will be doing is on the witness stand in this, let me remind you, civil case at the time of trial. And this is just not a criminal case. Furthermore, if Brother Little Rod thinks he needs to preserve his own Fifth Amendment rights, then that ought to tell you everything you need to know about this shakedown. Allegedly. And so, ladies and gentlemen of this internet courthouse jury, in real life, nothing in this declaration is evidence that would ever be admissible in a court of law at the time of trial on the merits of the case. And let me just remind you that a civil lawsuit is not a blog post. These kinds of things that you have seen in these so-called legal documents filed by Brother Little Rod and his attorney are not proved up evidence that a judge would ever allow to be admitted as evidence to be reviewed by a jury at the time of trial. Now, when you go back and review the First Amendment complaint, which is the last live pleading on file, and I will say that Brother Blackburn has now filed the Second Amended complaint. So at the time, this was the last live pleading that we had information from. And so the last live pleading on file until Brother Little Rod filed his Second Amendment complaint. And so you'll find that Brother Stevie J's name is mentioned 18 times in this complaint, in which Brother Little Rod alleges, quote, Brother Diddy was aware that Little Rod looked up to and idolized music producer Stephen Aaron Jordan, aka Brother Stevie J. In 1997, Brother Stevie J won a Grammy Award for his work on Brother Diddy's debut album. Brother Stevie J was one of the producers on the Love album. Brother Diddy used access to Brother Stevie J and his knowledge of Brother Little Rod's admiration of Brother Stevie J to groom and entice Brother Little Rod to engage in homosexuality. Brother Diddy went so far as to share a video of who he claims was Brother Stevie J carrying on certain backside activities with a Caucasian male without a condom. This was done to ease Brother Little Rod's anxiety concerning homosexuality. According to Brother Diddy, this is a normal practice in the music industry. Look, even Brother Stevie J is doing it. Then Brother Little Rod mentions in a footnote that Stevie J denies that he's the person in the video. A male porn star claimed that he was the black male in the video. Brother Diddy informed Brother Little Rod that he had engaged in sexual activities with a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj, an R&B singer who performed at the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency. And Stevie J, Brother Diddy, promised to make sure that Brother Little Rod wins Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he engaged in homosexuality. After publicly requesting that Brother Diddy do the right thing and pay him fairly, Brother Little Rod received an onslaught of threatening messages from Brother Stevie J. End quote. Now, this is a lot to break down, but stated quite simply, none of this is proof of anything that would be admissible in a court of law at the time of trial. Brother Little Rod never, in the pleadings or in the declaration, actually confirms that he ever participated in any homosexual intercourse activities with Brother Diddy. And if you're not sure if Brother Stevie J is the person in the video, I mean, he's saying it's not him, and another person is saying that he is the person in the video, then why do you include it in your lawsuit, Brother Blackburn? And while you don't mention the names of the other two individuals who you alleged engaged in homosexual activities, we all know who they are when we read that footnote, but you have no problem mentioning Brother Stevie J's name. And so anyone reading this would opine that it is not professional. The salacious details have nothing to do with the facts that would be established, that would establish any element or any cause of action pled in any of the pleadings that Brother Little Rod has filed at this particular point in time. And after it was all said and done, the judge did in fact grant leave of court, allowing Brother Little Rod to file his second amended complaint. And because the UMG's defendant's motion to dismiss was based on the allegations made in the first amended complaint, the judge denied the UMG defendant's motion to dismiss at this time, but without prejudice. Because at this point, the motion is moot, since the first amended complaint would no longer be the last live or the last amended live pleading on file. And since the motion to dismiss is denied as being moot at this point, Brother Little Rod did not have to file a response to it by April 10th, which was the original deadline for him to do so. And so while Brother Little Rod does not actually ever say that he engaged in homosexual intercourse activities with Brother Diddy, this lawsuit is dripping with some kind of anger, which makes me think that he possibly was tricked into actually doing so. allegedly. I mean, it seems clear that this is a person who is dealing with a whole nother level of wholesale disappointment of some sort regarding Brother Diddy. And it seems clear that Brother Little Rod is feeling some type of way as it relates to Stevie J. But where are we now, weeks after the feds raided Diddy's homes? And does Stevie J seem worried about anything? I would say not, but let's see.
It's my understanding that when the raid went down in Miami, were you on Star Island or were you actually at Diddy's house? I know you were in Miami.
I was at his crib working in the studio. I was sitting outside the studio door, and I heard a big boom. Now, mind you, before we get into this, I'm not a spring chicken, even though I look fly and stuff. But I've witnessed some historical events of excessive force, but none like this since Saddam Hussein or El Chapo or Pablo Escobar even Osama bin Laden. I heard a big boom. So I'm thinking like, a lot of people do work on the island all day long, so I'm figuring someone dropped some materials. Heard it again. Turn my head, I'm hearing do, 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 do. Armored vehicles, 3 big armored vehicles come. Dudes jump out, I got 50 dots on my shirt. Screaming, yo, get on the ground. I'm like, yo, really? I'm the only one here. Took me outside, I asked to speak to the higher ups. I was under arrest. And they said, no, you're being detained. I want to speak to the higher ups. Spoke to the higher ups. I said, am I under arrest? They said, no, you're not. Let me let you go. Boom. Let me go check your bags. You don't have any weapons and all. I'm like, I don't have any weapons.
Stevie, what did they take from the house? Were you able to see?
I saw them take like a bag of one bag.
Well, did they take electronics? Because they did in Los Angeles.
I'm sure they took some electronics, some of the camera stuff and all that. Probably they didn't want him to get a look at what they were doing in his crib, like how they came in with the armored trucks. Of course, they took all that stuff.
What did you see when you walked back in?
I just don't want to get too much into that. I just know that I walked in and they messed the man crib up, you know what I'm saying? And they did his crib dirty. And, I haven't seen anything like this in a long time.
Can you tell us what his reaction was when you spoke to him the next day?
He was just devastated, just merely because he was going out of the country with his daughters for spring break, and they had to witness things like that at the airport. I believe that would kind of shift the thinking of any man in general. If you're going on vacation with your kids and the feds show up and ruin your trip, and it's their senior year, you know what I mean? So I know he was more hurt by that.
Now, it seems clear that nobody, including Stevie J, really has any idea of what, if anything, the feds were able to actually obtain in the search warrant operation executed on Brother Diddy's home in Miami. But what about the search warrant executed on Brother Diddy's home located in Los Angeles? Let's see if we can find out about that.
The sources telling Fox 5's Rosanna Scotto that several weapons and compromising video were found.
All right, Fox 5's Teresa Perillo live in the studio with the very latest today. Teresa.
Yeah, Stephen, Natasha, Diddy is believed to be in Miami laying low. It's still not known if he is the target of the FBI's investigation because the feds are remaining tight-lipped. But we're told the coordinated raids were due to focus on phones and computers, and it appears as though they walked away with a lot more than that.
It's not looking that great.
If the reports out of Los Angeles and Miami are to be believed, the walls may be closing in on Sean Diddy Combs. The hip-hop mogul who has launched countless careers may find his next set of digs could be a federal lockup. That is, if the rumors tying him to a sex trafficking operation are true. Derek Parker knew Diddy in the 90s when he was an NYPD detective known as the hip-hop cop.
There are a lot of things that are coming out right now, and what's going to happen is that the government's going to go through all of these things that they have uncovered, and they're going to see if there's any criminality. If any charges are to be brought, they will bring them later.
Prosecutors with the Southern District of New York, in conjunction with Homeland Security and the FBI, raided Diddy's homes earlier this week. Good Day New York's Rosanna Scotto received exclusive info alleging compromising video and weapons were recovered in his Miami home.
They have a much bigger case. Right now with the guns, they're going to check them, they're going to trace them, see if they were used in any crimes. They're going to go over anything about cooperators that are cooperating with them. They're going to be talking to a lot of people about certain criminal acts that he might have committed, and then go from there.
Rosanna also learned Diddy will not be arrested anytime soon. The investigation comes on the heels of Diddy's former partner, Cassie, suing him in November. She accused him of raping her, beating her, and forcing her into unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers.
Now, for his part, Diddy has said through his attorneys that the lawsuits are money grabs. He classified them as baseless and sickening. Tasha, Steve.
All right, Teresa, thank you.
And so, as you can see, we are nowhere closer to knowing if the feds have the goods on Brother Diddy or not. I actually do think the chances are high that he will be indicted, but the standard to secure an indictment is very low. But as a trial lawyer for over 20 years, I don't see sufficient evidence at this moment in time. And I'm assuming if they were able to find anything, they'll be able to establish evidence at that time. I'm just telling you, based on the things that I've seen in these 5 civil lawsuits, I don't see it just of yet. So, you know, it's a whole lot of hearsay, innuendo, people saying something happened. They don't necessarily name people who will actually come at the time of trial and testify about what they saw. And so, and even if they do, we haven't seen anything based on what they're saying they would say that they would actually say it. So this is not proof in real life. You have to have this kind of proof to prove any of these allegations beyond a reasonable doubt at this point, and I don't see it. I see absolutely nothing in the Brother Little Rod lawsuit, and I absolutely think it is nothing more than a breach of contract dispute. But what I will absolutely say is that there is an awful lot of smoke around the allegations made by these women in these other civil lawsuits. And you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. The problem with them is that the allegations are from so long ago, and I don't know that Brother Diddy was stupid enough to keep any of the alleged recordings in his homes or in any cloud-based storage devices. But what do you think about all of this mess? Do you think the judge will grant the UMG defendants' motion to dismiss them from this lawsuit? And why do you think that we're not hearing much from Brother Diddy's attorneys in this case? Do you think it's because they seem to think they have bigger fish to fry in some of these other lawsuits? And do you think the feds have uncovered any evidence of present crimes or from crimes alleged in the over 20-year-old allegations made by women in their various civil suits that will support an indictment against Brother Diddy? Please let me know what you think by leaving your comments in the comments section below. And I just want to say right here and now, I'm beginning to, what we're seeing now with some of these civil lawsuits, I've looked into all of them at this present time to see where they are. Many of them haven't even, it seems like they haven't even served Diddy in some of these cases. So Diddy hasn't even entered an appearance in a lot of these cases, like this case, for instance. It seems like he just hasn't been served yet. But what I will say is that the Joy Dickerson-Neal case, I'm going to be talking about that next, because something in my spirit is telling me that case may settle. And so I think very soon we might hear that that case is going to settle. There's some things about that case that I'm going to show you in this next upcoming week that lead me to believe that something is happening in the background on that case. And if you go back and watch my prior video in this episode series where I talk about all of the different cases. That case speaks to me for some reason. That case, well, all of them are horrible, but I feel like if you're going to make an allegation, you got to be able to say, give me a ballpark figure of the day that the incident happened. And some of these people can't even say. Jane Doe, she said that the accident happened between the fall and the spring. I mean, that's like 6 months, a 6-month period of time. You can't narrow it down to the month. So that's going to be kind of hard right there. That case has a lot of activity going on in it right now, but the Diddy defendants don't have to file their response to the complaint in that case because the plaintiff amended that complaint as well. And so that case, there's a motion to dismiss in that case. So everything is kind of up in the air right now. I know that case won't settle until the judge makes a determination on the motion to dismiss. And so that's been put on the back burner because the plaintiff amended their complaint. You know, it's a stalling tactic. So that's what's going on in that case. But there is something interesting going on in the Joy Dickerson-Neal case to me that makes me think there's something going on in the background. And I'm going to be reporting on that very soon. And so in the meantime, I hope that you'll give me a big thumbs up. And I hope you'll also consider donating to this video and my entire channel ministry by donating to the ProfessorBlackmore.com Cash App. And I also want to ask that you please subscribe. Please, 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 ma'am and sir. Please help my channel by subscribing to my YouTube channel and set your notifications so you'll be notified whenever I come back with more hot tea from the courthouse, the church house, and everywhere else. And when I come back with even more developments about that Joy Dickerson-Neal case. So you can find out if I think that case is nearing a settlement. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.